This is CBN NewsWatch.
Thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Wendy Griffith. We begin with the latest on Hurricane Zeta. The storm is packing up to 100-mile-per-hour winds and heavy rains as it moves toward the U.S. Gulf Coast, possibly coming ashore as a Category 2 hurricane. Residents are preparing for up to 9 feet of storm surge in low-lying areas as hurricane warnings have been issued along the Mississippi-Alabama border. In New Orleans, city officials have urged residents to evacuate voluntarily. Zeta is the 27th named storm of the 2020 hurricane season and the 11th to strike the U.S., breaking a national record. Joining us now for more is Chief Meteorologist at Weatherbell, Joe Pistardi. Joe, how strong will Zeta be when it makes landfall, and what cities along the Gulf will see the worst of it?
Well, New Orleans, Biloxi, and Gulfport are going to get hit the worst with this, and it will carry damaging winds well into Alabama. I believe it's I-59, the corridor up there, Tuscaloosa, Birmingham, and then it'll start to weaken as it gets in the mountains in northeast Alabama during the day tomorrow. It'll weaken after it comes ashore, obviously. I expect it to be right over New Orleans or very close around 7 o'clock this evening. If you were tuned in yesterday, we said it would get to a Cat 2. It's up to a Cat 2 now, and it's going to be making landfall very close to that intensity there. It's similar in intensity to Sandy, which occurred just before the election in 2012, and it's going to be interesting to see. You know, we talked about this yesterday, the history of the weather and how it sometimes can impact the way things turn, but this is going right through there very, very quickly. What's interesting about this year is, you know, again, this sounds sort of pompous. I understand that. But in April, we put out a map showing people where these were going to hit. Now, I got questions say, well, don't they always hit there? No, we didn't have that map last year or the year before. We didn't think there'd be much hitting the coast those 2 years. We had a lot in 2017. And what you can see now is where they've actually gone toward that area. So we correctly dissected a pattern that was setting up with what we call the Madden-Julian oscillation, certain phases of that. And you see those numbers there, if the map is up, favor that. And that's why we figured that this season would be a very big season. And there may be one more. We're going for South Florida sometime within the first 10 days of November. There might be one more coming out of the Caribbean. Yeah. But let's deal with this now. Landfall is coming around 4 or 5 o'clock to the Central Time to the southwest of New Orleans. It's over New Orleans around 6 or 7 o'clock. Up near Gulfport, Biloxi, in that area around 9, 10 o'clock. Those are when your strongest winds are going to occur. There'll be wind gusts to 100 miles an hour probably on the east side of New Orleans, 70 miles an hour on the west side, and both Biloxi and Gulfport will probably get those kind of wind gusts also, and that'll diminish as it goes inland.
Hey, Joe.
The parting shot moves off the mid-Atlantic coast and may snow in back of it in New England and New York on Friday.
Wow, bringing snow. Well, are tornadoes and flooding going to be issues with Zeta?
I think there's going to be tornadic activity late tonight into tomorrow from southeast Alabama on up into southeast Virginia with this. You know, that's always a tricky type of situation with that. But I've noticed that storms that get over the Appalachians for a while, those are the ones, and I think it's because they drag dry air out of the Appalachians after, and there's a lot of warm, moist air in front of it. You get the intersection of that. So I'm very concerned tomorrow, late tonight and tomorrow, as this gets inland, that we are going to have some tornadic activity. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys got put under a tornado watch during the day tomorrow as this goes by to your west and north.
Oh, you mean here in Virginia Beach?
Virginia Beach.
Wow.
So, you know, and to the north of it, there's going to be a cold rain, and it'll move off the coast and head rapidly out to sea. But we got some real cold air coming in behind it, some of that cold air that's been in the plains. By the way, November 21st, 22nd, 1985, even more extreme, we had a Category 3 in the Gulf of Mexico. And November 21st, with record cold in the Central Plains. So, which brings me
to my next question, Joe. Do you think this is the last storm we will see this season?
No, I think that this pattern, what's been going on is cold air comes in, there's a rebound in temperatures, that sets off what's going on in the tropics. We saw it with Sally and Beta, that tandem, then Delta and Gamma, Epsilon, and now Zeta. So there may be one more coming out of the Caribbean between November 1st and 10th, and then we could shut the season down. By the way, these storms on average have been weaker this year than the 2005 season. The ACE index there per storm was near 8 or 9. This is just barely over 5. There have been a lot of minor storms out in the middle of nowhere, but of course there have been a lot of big storms coming in on the U.S. coast.
Yeah, well, they were strong enough for a lot of those residents still trying to rebuild and get out of the mess they're in. Joe, we always appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
All righty. Well, later in the show, we're going to show you the tremendous work of Operation Blessing. They've been on the ground since day one there, helping storm-weary victims in the Gulf restore and rebuild. We'll have that story coming up. Well, some good news out west. Calmer weather allowed Southern California firefighters to beat back 2 blazes that drove nearly 100,000 people from their homes. As winds subsided, containment increased for the massive wildfires in those brushy hills above the cities in Orange County. Some residents who fled were expected to be able to return home today. 2 firefighters who battled one of the blazes remain in critical condition after suffering 2nd and 3rd degree burns over large portions of their bodies. Our prayers are with them. Turning overseas now, a long simmering conflict between 2 former Soviet countries has flared up in recent weeks. Armenia and Azerbaijan are fighting over the Nagorno-Karabakh region. Both sides claim ownership, which has been semi-independent since 1991. Chuck Holton is on the ground with a first-hand look.
If you want to know what a war crime looks like, this is it. This is an Azeri missile that landed on this hospital just today. This wing of the hospital was just about ready to open, and it's not near any military targets, so it's not like it was an accident. It is very clear the military of Azerbaijan is targeting civilian infrastructure.
Both sides accuse the other of atrocities in this conflict, but only Azerbaijan is trying to take land it doesn't control. The Armenians, on the other hand, see this as an existential threat.
They won't occupy our territory and clean this territory from Armenians.
More than 99% of the people that live in this region are ethnic Armenians, and they make up one of the oldest Christian communities in the world.
We are here. That's our historical land. We want to live here, and we want to have our rights. We want to know our history. We want to have open churches. We want to pray.
I'm in the capital of the Nagorno-Karabakh region of Armenia called Artsakh, or this is the city of Stepanakert. Behind me, you can see the effects of the Azeri bombardment that has been hitting this city since September 27th. Of the 150,000 people who live in this area, most of them have already had to flee, but there are still tens of thousands of people that are staying here, sleeping in their cellars, in their basements, and listening to the daily barrage of random artillery that's falling on this city.
On September 27, when we woke up, we heard the loud sounds of explosions. We saw the bursts, the smoke. We understood what's going on. And my dad told us to take all of our things and to go to his shops underground cellar.
This is Rosa. She's 83, and she was sleeping in that room right behind me when this bomb flattened her house. This was a very large bomb, and this is not near any military objective or anything. It's just random bombing of civilian areas by Azerbaijan, supported by Turkey.
Rosa says the fact that she survived is nothing short of a miracle. Meanwhile, President Erdogan of Turkey has sent military assets to help Azerbaijan as this conflict has become a power struggle between regional superpowers. Armenia has limited support from Russia, but the Armenian military is still outnumbered 5-1.
It's just after noon, and the air raid siren is going off in the distance. There have been just random artillery shells falling sort of all around this hotel. One just landed about a quarter mile that direction. And another one just a minute ago landed right over this way. But this is what the people of Stepanakert are having to deal with literally every day without warning. So you could be walking down the street, and if one of those shells lands anywhere near you, it's game over.
And as the violence continues to intensify, Armenians are vowing to fight to the bitter end and are putting their faith in God. From the Republic of Artsakh, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thank you, Chuck. God bless you. Well, with less than a week before Election Day, some 71 million Americans have already voted. That's according to the U.S. Elections Project. That is more than half the total vote from 4 years ago. Still, both the Trump and Biden campaigns are stomping hard in swing states for additional votes that could determine the election. President Trump in Arizona today campaigning, as is Joe Biden's running mate Kamala Harris. Biden is in Delaware. Stocks around the world tumbled Wednesday on worries the worsening pandemic will mean more restrictions on businesses and hurt the economy. A member of the White House task force says he doesn't think the concern over hospital capacity, staffing, and resources will result in rationing.
There is no concept of rationing care at this point in time. We have plenty of resources, and we actually have leeway in the system to absorb the care.
Meanwhile, the U.S. government has agreed to buy initial doses of an experimental COVID-19 antibody drug from Eli Lilly. It would be used on an emergency basis in patients to help them recover sooner, much like the drug Regeneron given to President Trump after he was diagnosed with the virus. Well, a California church was fined by the local health department after 2 employees witnessed women in prayer veils leaving the sanctuary. Our Lady of Angels Catholic Church in Arcadia, California, had already filed a lawsuit against Governor Gavin Newsom over his endless state of emergency and what they believe are unconstitutional COVID-19 restrictions imposed on houses of worship. Well, shortly after the suit was filed, 2 environmental health specialists arrived at the church and handed them a $1,000 fine. The Thomas More Society, which is representing the church, called out the health department for their scrutiny and intimidation. The U.S. Marshals Service in Ohio has just completed the largest anti-human trafficking operation in state history. Ohio Attorney General David Yost said more than 50 agencies were involved in Operation Autumn Hope. They recovered 45 missing children, 109 human trafficking survivors, and made 177 arrests. Yost tweeted, quote, "The success of Operation Autumn Hope is measured not only in the number of arrests, but in the lives that were rescued from this evil. Every agency on this team looks for the day when no person is bought and sold in Ohio." Amen. Well, coming up, an alarming trend for churches and their pastors, the story and hope to turn it around right after this.
This election night, with a country divided and America's future hanging in the balance, go to a place you can trust, CBN News. CBN News presents an election night special with live coverage starting at 7 p.m. Get live updates on each of the campaigns, plus analysis on the shifting balance of power. Watch November 3rd at 7 p.m. on the CBN News Channel or download the CBN News app. CBN News, because truth matters.
To have sex before you marry is a bad idea.
Don't tell me there's no such thing as gun violence.
That just depends on your definition of when life begins.
Watch Dan and Dale tackle trending topics that test your faith on the next Faith Wire, Monday night at 9:30.
Welcome back to Newswatch. A global pandemic, growing national unrest, and a contentious political divide added to the regular stresses of life are taking their toll on people everywhere. Even pastors are overwhelmed and weary, and some are throwing in the towel. William Vanderbloom, founder of Vanderbloom, the largest Christian executive search firm, is here now to discuss this perfect storm and give us a little hope, we hope. Welcome to the show, William.
Thanks so much for having me. It's a joy to be with you.
Well, being a pastor is already a difficult job. How has this year, 2020, put some pastors and a lot of us over the edge?
Well, I'll try not to ramble. I'm a recovering preacher, but having had the job, I've joked with a lot of pastors, aren't we all glad we took that class in seminary on leading through a pandemic? I'm very weary of the word unprecedented, but it's been a bizarre year. And as you stated earlier, it's just a perfect storm. Any one of these three things alone would be hard enough. But when you combine the civil unrest that's been going on with a very contentious election and a pandemic that just seems to be like the Energizer Bunny, it's really stressed a lot of people out to a point that is making some people rethink their careers.
And I really feel for a lot of pastors who might not be that tech savvy because they've been forced to go online with their services. And that can add a lot of stress as well as exhaustion. Do you think stress and exhaustion are another pandemic among pastors?
I think so. And I think a big part of it, some pastors are introverted, some are extroverted. But if you look at the creation narrative, the very first thing that you hear God say that's bad, the very first curse he issues, the very first negative commentary he gives is he says, it is not good for people to be left alone. And pastors who love to be on the front lines and to minister, think about the things that make a pastor's job. There's praying with people by laying on hands.
Right.
There's worshiping together and singing. There are all these things that for the health of others and for extreme caution, we've just had to say no to for a while. And I think pastors are realizing it is not good for us to be left alone. So I know everyone wants to be careful and wants to open with enough caution that we don't spread a disease or cause someone to get sick. I think, though, people are getting tired of the isolation.
Yeah.
One theologian that I respect greatly says, hell is God's granting of our final wish to be left alone.
Ooh.
I think we're starting to discover what being alone feels like.
Ouch, yeah. Well, what can church members do? What can we do to help our pastors during this time?
I'll give you one really specific thing you can do. Send them a note of encouragement on Monday. So we help churches find their pastor. We help Christian schools find their headmaster, but we help churches find their pastor is kind of the backbone of our work. And invariably, people will reach out to us and say, I'm thinking maybe my time here's done. You know what? If you took all the notes I get like that and added up all the notes I get on Tuesday through Sunday, they're not as many as I get on Monday. Pastors are depressed on Mondays. They've done everything they can on Sunday. And if they're just talking to a camera, they don't even know if they're getting through. So if you want to do one tangible thing, it's send a note on a Monday. And if you really want to go the extra mile, send a handwritten note in the regular mail on Friday or Saturday so it arrives on Monday. I have a file folder from when I was a pastor. I called it my Barnabas folder, my encouragement folder. I stuck every one of those notes in there and kept them, and I pulled them out on Mondays and read them all the time.
Oh, wow. That is so encouraging. I know what you mean. I do the same thing. Well, you say there is a surprising future for the church after this pandemic. Tell us about that.
Well, I think that we're going to see a churn. Forget the pandemic and the bad things that have caused us to have to sit still. Many, many times pastors in a good season will take a sabbatical or a season off to rest, and they reflect and they come back and they decide it's time for a change. I don't think that's because they dislike where they are. I just think humans love routine and get caught in routine. And anytime a break in the routine happens, it gives us time to reflect and say, what am I really called to? Well, this has been a break in the routine that's not been a good one, but it has caused some people to drop back and say, do I really want to keep doing what I'm doing, or should I go for another type of ministry or another type of job? So I think you're going to see in the next 18 to 24 months a whole lot of churn. A lot of pastors are one bad news cycle away from retiring or hanging it up. We do a whole lot of succession planning, and a lot of that succession planning has been accelerated by this. People who thought they had 5 more years are saying, I'm not a digital native. I don't like preaching to a camera. Let's stop a little sooner. So for a number of different reasons, I think there'll be a lot of churn.
A lot of churn. All right. As a hurricane is churning towards the Gulf Coast, that's very apropos. William Vanderbloom, thanks so much for your time and your insights. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We will be right back with more. Stay tuned.
Want to be a part of a community that inspires your spiritual growth while winning prizes? The all-new MyCBN app. Connect with the community for prayer and encouragement. Track and set spiritual goals. Enjoy conversation starters with friends and family. And collect points to win prizes. The all-new MyCBN app. A great place to belong. Download the app at cbn.com/mobile. Grow, connect, have fun. The all-new MyCBN app.
On the home front.
Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front, where we highlight what the men and women of America's military do to defend our country. CBN honors the men and women in our military with an initiative called Helping the Home Front. It partners with churches across the country to meet the needs of their military families, from repairing homes to wiping out medical bills for wounded veterans.
Watch On the Home Front today at 2:30.
Too often, we carry baggage from our past. You know what it's like. It affects everything and everyone in our lives. It's always there, weighing us down and keeping us from achieving true happiness. But do you know God never meant for us to be trapped in the past? You can be free of your baggage. Learn how God's forgiveness leads to changed lives and new beginnings. Call the 700 Club.
As Hurricane Zeta prepares to make landfall along the Gulf Coast, Operation Blessing is already on the ground in Louisiana. The disaster relief group has been there for more than 2 months, helping residents recover from this incredible hurricane season. And they say what they really need now is more volunteers. Take a look. Hurricane Laura, this year's most powerful hurricane, hit in Cameron, Louisiana, August 28th, packing 150-mile-per-hour winds and causing widespread catastrophic damage. Survivor Nancy Ryan's home was totaled.
So here I am trying to pack up 42 years of stuff, finding places to stay.
Operation Blessing came to Nancy's rescue, helping salvage her belongings and putting a tarp on her roof.
I don't think there are any words that you could say that could ever express what Operation Blessings has done for me. Just thank you and thank God for you.
Then, just 6 weeks later, Tropical Storm Delta slammed into the same region devastated by Laura, with heavy winds, rain, and leaving hundreds of thousands without power.
The shingles came off, so the rain came through the roof.
The winds and rain were too much for Trudy Falk's home, but once again, Operation Blessing answered the call.
They've taken out debris, hauled furniture out, did a lot of packing, the kitchen. Operation Blessing has just been an awesome help. It just feels like God giving you a hug and saying, I care.
Operation Blessing volunteers like Yvonne Adame of College Station, Texas, make it possible to help so many people in need.
I guess you can see behind me, there's a lot of trees down here. And so we were able to come out here with chainsaws and cut some of these trees and clear a lot of their front yard. It's been a lot of work, but you know, it's been good.
Still, the task of helping residents rebuild the storm-battered region remains a priority, and more volunteers are needed.
If you can take some days off, come out. It's just, there's such a big need here, and mostly for volunteers.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the sleep doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're going to bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to CBN.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. Whoa! It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
The Millsburg Falls man coming.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes too, and so much more. Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
Bethel Music Collective and worship leaders Paul and Hannah McClure are releasing a new song. It's part of a new Christmas album by Bethel. The song is called Christmas Morning. The two say the song was written together during an inspirational late-night music session.
I remember sitting on the floor in the house, you're playing piano, and just thinking it starts with the story of a baby born in Bethlehem.
Yeah, I was reading in Luke where it says, it talks about the angels coming to visit the shepherds in the field. The angel says, don't be afraid, because I bring you joyous news, the best news the world has ever heard.
Yeah.
Today, a rescuer is born.
A rescuer is born. Well, I can't wait to hear that. Thanks so much for watching. We're out of time. Have a great day.